Hello everyone, welcome back to another edition of our Vector Guide. In today's episode, we're going to take a look at the MACD, which is also known as the Moving Average Convergence Divergence. To insert it into the chart, we're going to click on Indicators. We'll click Add Indicator. So we'll go ahead and search for MACD. And as you can see, we have a few options. We have the MACD standalone, the MACD's histogram, or both. So for demonstrative purposes, we'll select both, add a new window, and click OK. Now the reason we're using both is to better understand the strength of a trend and to allow us to better read the chart, as well as to improve our existing trading strategy. So let's get to know all the moving parts that compose the MACD. To begin, we have the long-term exponential moving average, which is set for 26 periods, and a short-term exponential moving average, which is set for 12 periods. These two combined form our blue MACD line. Now we also have a moving average of 9 periods, which is depicted here in green, which is also known as our trend signal line. Now let's take a look at a few customization features offered by this indicator. So if we click on the green trend line, for example, the properties will appear. And under the parameters, we can actually change the interval for our moving average. We can change the type, as well as change the appearance. So we can change the style, the color, and the thickness of the line. We could do the same for our blue MACD line. So if we hover over and click on it, we'll have the properties that appear. So we can change the parameters, the number of periods for both the long and short-term average. And we can also change the appearance. So we can change the style of the line, the color, the thickness once again, and we can even change the color of our histogram down here. All right, so let's just go ahead and increase the thickness of our MACD line, and we'll go ahead and change the color of our histogram to fuchsia. Go ahead and click Apply, and then OK. And there we have it. All right, so the purpose of this indicator is to give us a better understanding of price actions in order for us to identify trend signals. And the crossover of the MACD and the trend signal line can be used to help us to identify possible market entries or exits. And analyzing the MACD indicator is actually quite straightforward. The MACD is triggered when it crosses over above or below its signal line. In essence, the MACD gives us two important signals. An uptrend signal occurs when the MACD crosses over above the trend signal line, and a downtrend signal occurs whenever the MACD crosses below the trend signal line. To put this into practice, let's examine our chart together. So this first crossover point, which takes place right about here, would indicate a good time to enter the market, as we can observe that the price of the crypto asset was driven sharply upwards, demonstrating a bullish market. In other words, if we placed a buy order at this point, we could have held our position up until the next crossover point, which is right about here. So as we can see, the histogram's bars are oscillating with the movement of both the MACD and the signal line up until it hits 0. And then expands above 0, oscillates, and then begins to diminish once again up until our next crossover point indicated here. Essentially, our second crossover point illustrates that our MACD line is crossing over below our trend signal line, which indicates a bearish market. In other words, if you placed a sell order at this crossover point, you could have held your position up until the next crossover point, which takes place right over here. Our histogram is basically behaving in the same manner as our previous crossover point. So we have the oscillating bars, which decrease in size as they approach 0, which is when our crossover takes place, and again begins to increase in size and diminishes once more up until our third crossover point here. Our third crossover point, similar to our first crossover point, shows the MACD line crossing over above our trend signal line. And so this crossover point would indicate a good time to enter into the market, as we can observe once again that the price of the crypto asset was driven sharply upwards. So if we placed a buy order at this crossover point, we could have held our position up until the next crossover point, which takes place right here. This fourth crossover point, we can see that our MACD line barely crosses over below our trend signal line. And it's almost as if these 2 points meet or are touching up until our next crossover point, which takes place right here. Now, between these two crossover points, we can see that our histogram is almost non-existent. Looking up at the chart, we can see that our candlesticks are oscillating up and down with less volatility, and it seems that we're entering into a sideways market. As we can observe, the MACD is an excellent way to track trends within the market, but our interpretation of the market really depends on the context of the market that we're analyzing. It's important to keep in mind that the MACD won't provide a clear trading signal and shouldn't be used as a primary decision-making tool in order to place trades. It should rather be used to accompany our chart analysis combined with other tools and resources on the Vector platform that we'll cover in future Vector guides. In summary, the MACD helps us to better understand price actions in order to identify trend signals. The crossover of our MACD and trend signal line can be used to help identify possible market entries or exits. The MACD is triggered when it crosses over above or below the trend signal line. An uptrend signal takes place when the MACD crosses over above the trend signal line, and a downtrend signal takes place when the MACD crosses below the trend signal line. The histogram is our visual guide in understanding price swing momentum, as well as to help us accompany when there will be a trend signal change within the market. Thanks again for watching this video on how to maximize your reading of the charts using the MACD on the Vector platform. Don't forget to like this video, share it with others, subscribe to our channel, and activate notifications to receive more useful content and trading tips when using the Vector platform. We'll see you soon.